All right, guys, you ready?
Yep.
So we're going to go 20 minutes in here. Okay, I'm going to talk a lot about really the core fundamentals. Then we're actually going to go around the store. Okay, we're going to try to get it in an hour. It's a tough crunch. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll do a Q&A afterwards. Make sense? Okay. So basically, as we get started here, and I love Whole Foods. I love a store like this, really because just in general, the value system here is much higher than typical stores. We know that, for example, even though not everything here is organic, right? And clearly you can go down the aisles and you can find plenty of things that are not going to promote health. At least we know that they don't buy from farmers that use organophosphates, which are the most dangerous classification of pesticides. So at least we know that, and at least we know that the meat here is hormone-free and antibiotic-free. We're going to talk about the right type of meat to get, but at least we know that. So the standards are higher here, right, as the default standard than your typical grocery stores, right? And as we get started on a nutrition plan to help improve overall brain function, to help reduce inflammation in our body, reduce our risk of developing chronic disease, and turn our body into a lean, mean, fat-burning machine, right? Raise your hand if you want those benefits, right, all of us. So as we get into that, there's three basic principles that all of us want to apply. The first thing is we want to reduce sugar and grains, right? And I think most of you guys know, hey, sugar, not good, right? We know that in our society, but most people are eating things every single day that turn into sugar quickly in their body, bump up blood sugar and cause inflammation in their system. And when blood sugar is elevated, you're not going to be able to burn fat. The key to burning fat effectively and promoting lean body tissue and healthy brain function, like really, really good high-level brain function, is keeping blood sugar stable. So critical. And so the way that we do that to start is we reduce sugars and grains, okay? And so most of us grew up on breads and pasta. Like for me growing up, it was cereal in the morning, right? Now my mom, she would never get the cereal I wanted, which was typically Fruit Loops or Trix or whatever I saw on TV, whatever one had the most colors, right? But she would get what she thought was healthy, which was Cheerios or Corn Flakes or Bran Flakes or Grape Nuts, right? I mean, you guys, Grape Nuts, right? That was the healthy one. So she would get that, and then of course we put skim milk in because we wanted to avoid fat, so we wanted low fat, and then we put some sort of fruit like bananas or something like that. And then, my parents oftentimes would get orange juice because we wanted vitamin C. And so we'd have all of those things, and certainly there were some nutrients in the fruit and the orange juice, but all of those things spike your blood sugar, right? So blood sugar go through the roof. So for me, if I had that at 8 o'clock, by 10 o'clock, it was like my head was spinning, I was dizzy, I was thirsty because sugar dehydrates you. I just felt awful. Okay, and what ended up happening was I would have ADHD, right? In a sense, I would have concentration issues. I couldn't perform well in school. I'd end up sleeping in a lot of my classes in junior high and high school. And I always say, if my English teacher in high school knew that I'm a professional writer today, she'd be like, not that kid, right? But the reason why I wasn't fueling my body right, because I was loading up on sugars and grains. So I would have cereal in the morning, I'd have a sandwich, for lunch. And when you combine bread, right, which of course spikes your blood sugar, with meat, right, or something like peanut butter, you combine a lot of protein and fat with carbohydrates, that is really tough on your digestive system. So it would cause more stress on my digestive system, which would irritate my gut lining. And then for dinner it was always like pasta or pizza or macaroni and cheese, some sort of heavy carb type of meal. So it was just carbs all the time. So blood sugar was going all over the place. I had trouble sleeping at night, chronic inflammation in my body, all kinds of different issues. So, finally caught up to me when I was in my early 20s, and I developed basically leaky gut and irritable bowel syndrome, right? So as a personal trainer, I was always into health. I was always into fitness and performance, but because I had caused so much inflammation and damage to my gut lining, I ended up dropping 30 pounds in basically about a 4-month period of time, right? Imagine me dropping 30 pounds, like anorexically thin. I go from sitting to standing and I would be dizzy, right? So that's called orthostatic hypotension, right? I had adrenal fatigue, so my blood pressure couldn't keep up with my positional change. So I'd be dizzy, it was hard to perform, I'd need naps all the time. And so I realized, gosh, I needed to change my lifestyle. Okay, and that's actually when I started seeing a chiropractor, started adjusting key areas of my spine. went gluten and then grain-free. I started by going gluten-free, then I went grain-free completely, started applying a lot of the principles I'm going to teach you guys today, and ended up gaining that weight back in about a 6-month period of time, gained that weight back, and then since there, just really my body's just gotten stronger and healthier ever since then. And so these principles really help our body to reverse chronic disease, reduce inflammation, and maximize overall performance. So it starts with reducing sugars and grains, okay, which again, most Americans, right, that's right at the bottom of the food guide pyramid, right? That's what they're consuming most of, right? That's where they're getting most of their calories. So we start there. Instead of getting our calories from that, we're gonna actually get our calories from good fats. So we're gonna get rid of bad fats and raise up good fats. Bad fats are gonna be things like corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil. You guys probably have seen these things, trans fats, right, hydrogenated oils. You see these in processed foods as well as like a lot of condiments. So if you go and get mayonnaise, it's gonna have soybean oil in it, or cottonseed oil, or canola oil, or something along those lines, right? If you go get typical salad dressings, right? Even some salad dressings here, okay? If you get that, you gotta look at the label, because oftentimes it's gonna be canola oil in there, or soybean oil. We wanna avoid those. Those are high in omega-6 fats. Raise your hand if you've heard of omega-6. It's an inflammatory fat, right? It's something we absolutely wanna be avoiding as much as possible. It takes 1,000 bushels of corn to produce 1 ounce of corn oil. Can anybody here consume 1,000 bushels of corn in one sitting? No, I don't think Paul Bunyan could consume 1,000 bushels of corn, in a week, right? And so that's a tremendous amount of corn, yet 1 ounce of corn oil you can get by putting like a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of salad dressing. So a lot of people will tell me, well, I'm making healthier choices. I go to Wendy's and I get the salad. Okay, like my dad told me that when he was changing his life. He's like, oh yeah, I go to Wendy's, but I get the salad. Here's the problem though, okay? The biggest problem there, it's probably a number of problems, but the biggest problem is the dressing they put on there is just basically corn oil, right? And so you just get massive amounts of toxic inflammatory fat right there. So really, really bad stuff. So that's what they typically use at fast food restaurants, things like that. You get a salad, typically get it without the dressing, ask for like lemon, like if you're at a restaurant, squeeze some lemon. Sometimes they have vinegar, right? You can put that on there. Maybe olive oil, especially if you're at like an Italian restaurant, they might have like really good olive oil. Use that instead. Make sense? That's kind of what you want to be using for a dressing. Get rid of those bad fats, and then we want to load up on good fats. So I talked about olive oil, avocados, phenomenal good fat that we want to be using, loaded with antioxidants, really good for balancing and stabilizing blood sugar, for helping provide more phytonutrients to help, in a sense, bring more oxygen, right? Phytonutrients help bring more oxygen into our cells. We know oxygen is, in a sense, the antidote to cancer, right? The more oxygen our cells are able to utilize effectively, the less risk of cancer and abnormal cell development in our bodies. So phytonutrients help with that. Avocados are rich in them. We want that. Lots of electrolytes, magnesium, potassium, things like that. So powerful. Okay, also coconut oil, coconut butter, coconut flakes, coconut milk. Getting these good coconut fats, one of the best things you'd be putting in your body. Coconut fats are rich in medium chain fats, which help produce ketones, which is an alternative fuel source to sugar in our body very, very quickly. And those ketones help fuel brain development. Okay, so when you get your body in a state of mild ketosis, and raise your hand if you've heard of like a ketogenic diet. I know Lori's got this right here, right? Ketogenic diet food plan, which I'm gonna actually send you guys. And so with that actually is one of the best plans, right? Just being in a state of mild ketosis for optimal performance. When you're in ketosis, you don't have cravings, right? You're not craving sugar and things like that. Your body's running on ketones. You have great brain function. You don't have as much hunger, right? So a lot of people, when they're loading up on carbs, I know this is me, it was like every 3 or 4 hours I had to eat something. Okay, now I can go long periods of time without consuming food because my body is in fat burning mode. It's called fat adaptation. When we're fat adapted, our body is adapted to using fat as its primary fuel, and I've got so much extra fat stores. Whereas we only carry a certain amount of extra sugar in our muscle and our liver. So when blood sugar starts to go down and we're not good at using fat as an energy source, our body says we're in a time of famine, and this is an extreme, this is major stress. So it bumps up stress hormone. right? And then we start to, have the hypoglycemic type reactions. We start to get jittery and irritable, right? Anybody guys know anybody like that? Okay. So improving our ability to get into ketosis and use fat as our primary energy source, one of the best things we could do to balance our blood sugar, be able to go long periods of time without food, burn fat as a primary fuel source, improve our brain function, in a sense, declare our freedom from food addiction. Right? It's one of the best things you could possibly do. I just watched a movie called Freedom. I don't know if you guys, Cuba Gooding Jr., right? Actually, great movie on Netflix. Get a chance. Audrey, you see that? Great movie, right? So this is how we declare our freedom from food addiction, is through really establishing our body as a good fat burner by loading up on these good fats. Another good fat is grass-fed butter. Grass-fed butter, extremely rich in conjugated linoleic acid, which helps our body to burn fat, helps actually one of the most powerful anti-carcinogenic agents. And people ask me all the time, they're like, the China study says, some of you guys may have heard of that, like, you stay away from animal products, this and that. But you know what? You look at certain types of animal products, grass-fed, right? Josh, we were talking about grass-fed animal products, particularly grass-fed beef and grass-fed dairy, like butter, for example, or ghee, which is clarified butter, very rich in conjugated linoleic acid, which tons of research out on CLA, and its ability to reduce cancer cell formation in our body. Plus, it also has butyrate, which helps actually reduce stress in your intestines. So it helps actually heal leaky gut because it's one of the preferred fuel sources for your intestinal cells called your enterocytes. Butyrate's also correlated with reducing arterial plaque, right? So arterial stress. In fact, our good bacteria in our gut break down fiber and they produce butyrate. And so eating a fiber-rich diet, that's actually the reason why it's so powerful. It's the number one reason is the ability of your bacteria to break down the fiber and produce butyrate. But you get pure butyrate from grass-fed butter. So I'm a huge fan of using grass-fed butter. There's also a lot of vitamin A in there, which gives it kind of the orangey color. A lot of vitamin E, vitamin D, vitamin K, all your fat-soluble vitamins. Boom, it's like a mega multivitamin right there in the grass-fed butter. It tastes good, right? So we'll talk about how to apply that. We're talking about protein. That's really the third thing, is we want to make sure that we're consuming clean protein. And clean protein is going to be grass-fed beef as opposed to grain-fed, commercially raised. It's going to be organic poultry, ideally what we call pasture-raised. So not pasteurized, pasture-raised. Key distinction, okay? Pasteurized means heated up to where there's no bacteria in there. Pasture-raised means the chickens are running around eating fresh pasture, grass, worms, all kinds of stuff like that. They're going to have more micronutrients in them when they do that. So pasture-raised eggs, great source of powerful phytonutrients for our body. Pasture-raised organic chicken. Sometimes it can be tough to find pasture-raised chicken. Easy to find the eggs, actually. I'll show you where those are. But organic chicken would be something that you'd be looking for at like a grocery store, kind of like this, right? But if you can find pasture-raised, it's the best. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Wild-caught fish, ideally like sockeye salmon is probably the best type of fish, most nutrient dense. So that's what we'd be looking for with that. Wild game, whether it's deer or antelope or what else? Yeah, bison, things like that. That's all really, really good stuff. So that's what we want with the clean protein. So how do we put this into kind of like a food guide pyramid? Well, basically, what we do is on the very bottom, instead of the carbs, we're going to have good fats. And the good fats are coconut products. Okay, they're going to be avocados. We talked about that. Olives, olive oil is another really good fat. Grass-fed butter or ghee. Okay, ghee is the clarified butter. People that have an extreme dairy allergy or people that have autoimmune disease, I always tell them to start with the ghee, not the butter, just in case. The butter has trace amounts, very, very small amounts of casein, whey, lactose. Okay, most people do great on the butter, right? Like for me, for example, I don't do well with pasteurized dairy. It inflames my body, damages me, but I could eat all the grass-fed butter that I want, and I do fantastic with that. Okay, so grass-fed butter, if you have an autoimmune disease though, I would recommend the ghee, right? So that's our good fats right at the bottom. Right above that is our antioxidant category. And with that, we want lots of veggies, right? So basically those vegetables, those are gonna be non-starchy vegetables ideally, right? Small amounts of starchy vegetables are okay. They are like sweet potatoes, for for most people, they're going to do okay with small amounts, maybe having like a sweet potato every couple days or something like that. Should be fine with that. If you want to go on a real strict ketogenic diet, you take out the sweet potato, pumpkin, yams, things like that. But anyways, non-starchy veggies like spinach, kale, collard greens, broccoli, cauliflower, cucumbers, celery, asparagus, Brussels sprouts. You guys are familiar with all those. Fantastic for your body. Low glycemic fruit. Lemons and limes, want to use a lot of that. Tons of phytonutrients, antioxidants in the lemons and limes. Really no sugar. So that's a fantastic source. Berries. Berries are low in sugar, high in antioxidants, high in nutrients. Blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, very powerful for our body. So berries are fantastic. Also, like a Granny Smith or green apple, that's really the apples that our ancestors used to consume, sour apples. If you ever been in, out like in a nature park or something like that, and you come across an apple tree, it's not, it's not a red apple, it's not sweet the way that, the apples that we are consuming regularly are. Those are more hybridized, right? So when they hybridize them, over time they become sweeter and sweeter because that's kind of what we like, our palate likes. However, that sugar, the effect it has on our blood sugar, not real good. So the sour apples have real powerful nutrients. One that's called prosidin, which is very, very good for, in a sense, reducing cancer cell growth in our body. So that's a really good one. So small amount of Granny Smith apple, fantastic. Grapefruit would also be a lower glycemic fruit, okay? If you have a higher glycemic fruit like pineapple or watermelon, just have a small amount. I always tell people, because watermelon, right? Everybody likes that on July 4th, that time of year. I always tell my clients, I tell them, the watermelon is for all the kids that are out there that are playing flag football or volleyball on 4th of July, not the parents that are sitting back on the rocking chair watching the kids play. Okay, so watermelon, think of it as, in a sense, like electrolyte replacement. It's got that sugar, but you want to make sure if you're going to consume that you just did some intense exercise or something like that, or it's going to throw off your blood sugar. Make sense? Right? So that would be a better benefit. So anyways, that's kind of that second category. And then one more thing in that antioxidant category, that's herbs. And herbs really, most people don't really know much about herbs, but adding a lot of things like oregano, thyme, basil, so Mediterranean herbs, rosemary, different things like that, fantastic for our body. Those are easy, they smell good, they taste good, you can put them on your meat, your vegetables, fantastic for your body. Also turmeric, ginger, right? You can do ginger tea, or you could juice ginger, or even grate it and put it on your food. Ginger's fantastic, turmeric, so we want to be using that as much as possible. If you go to my website, there's tons of recipes utilizing these kinds of herbs. Powerful source of antioxidants, and we want to get that in our system to reduce inflammation. So that's the antioxidant category. Right above that is clean protein, right? So every meal that we're consuming, if it's a true meal that we're trying to get calories from, we want to make sure we got good fats, we got some good sources of antioxidants in there, whether it's vegetables, low glycemic fruit, herbs, or a combination of all of them. Clean protein. So clean protein is going to be, again, organic meat, grass-fed beef, wild game, wild-caught fish, right? You might do a protein powder, whether it's like a non-denatured grass-fed whey protein, or you could do something like a pea protein, a hemp protein, brown rice protein. Ideally, again, an organic source, right? If you're doing the vegetable protein, like an organic pea protein, organic brown rice protein. Brown rice, obviously, we talked about grains are inflammatory. The brown rice protein, though, doesn't have the lectins, which are the inflammatory components. So it's hypoallergenic, right? Most people respond well to it. And then hemp protein is also another good source. So that's kind of that clean protein category. Then right above that is what I call fiber category. And in the fiber category are nuts and seeds. So the reason why I put them up there and not necessarily in the good fats is I see so many people overconsume nuts, right? So we hear like in the paleo diet and things like that, people hear, okay, I need to use almond flour. So they just start consuming like almond flour bread like every day. And we're not meant to consume that much almonds. I mean, you think about how hard it is to open up an almond or a walnut, like in nature, it'd take a lot of work to do that. And so our ancestors really were never consuming that much nuts and seeds on a regular basis. Today, we can just go to the bulk aisle, get a ton of it, or just grab some almond flour and make a whole bunch of muffins. Now, every now and then, that's great, right? So definitely a lot better doing it with grains. You can absolutely do it, but you want to eat them in moderation, okay? So for myself, I try not to eat nuts in particular more than like a small handful more than 3 times a week. Okay, and that would be a good ratio, especially if you're somebody that just notices inflammation when you're eating different things. Okay, like for me, if I overconsume nuts, I have to clear my throat a lot. Right, that's a big marker for me that I notice. Oh, my body's starting to produce inflammation. If you're eating things and you got to clear your throat all the time, okay, that's a sign your body's producing some inflammation. Or if you feel tired, real tired after you eat something, it's a sign your body's not responding real well to that. If you have trouble sleeping at night, you always want to look back, hey, what did I consume that may have contributed to that? These are markers, right? If you have eczema, right, acne, joint pain, you want to think, hey, how is my body responding to these foods? It may not be the food, right? Maybe other factors, but it absolutely may be. And I've seen tons of clients where they were consuming things that their body was actually creating an inflammatory response to and causing these problems. And they were following, in a sense, a diet I recommend. They just didn't realize that the almonds were causing massive inflammation every time they ate them, right? So this is something we want to be sensitive to. So nuts, the best nuts, right? Almonds are a great nut if you tolerate them well. Macadamia nuts are fantastic. Pecans, walnuts, these are all great nuts. Brazil nuts, very rich in selenium. Seeds, I'm a huge fan of seeds. I really like pumpkin seeds, probably the most nutrient-dense seed you can put in your body. Pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds, right? Those are really, really good seeds that we want to be consuming. Again, really great fiber source. So obviously we get fiber from non-starchy vegetables, but have some seeds in moderation. So I'll snack on some sprouted pumpkin seeds probably, again, a couple times a week, something along those lines. And again, try to be a little bit cognizant of, hey, how's my body responding to these types of foods? Make sense, right? Ideally, if you can get your seeds sprouted, your nuts and seeds sprouted or soaked overnight, it's a more absorbable way. You can handle more because you got rid of a lot of the anti-nutrients when you soak some almonds in water overnight, for example. Drain it out, put them in the oven at a low temperature, bake them. Tastes good that way, or just let them air dry and eat them that day. You do something along those lines, that's great. So anyways, that's that fiber category. Right above that is fermented foods. So fermented foods is going to be things like sauerkraut, kimchi, coconut water kefir, pickles, and I'm going to show you guys today where we find those. And adding like a tablespoon or 2 of those with each of your meals, highly advantageous. Adding a little bit of fermented foods at each meal, or even if you're just do it once a day, can be extremely advantageous because the probiotics, the enzymes in there, great for the body, really help us to break down and absorb the nutrients more effectively. So great strategy. So fermented foods, and right at the very top of our pyramid is going to be natural sweeteners. So best natural sweetener that I recommend is stevia. Okay, some of you guys are probably familiar with that. 100 times sweeter than sugar, all natural. You can grow it in your backyard, right? You can grow the leaf. And I'll show you the type of stevia that I recommend and I use personally. Stevia is great, okay? If you can digest xylitol, right? That can be really good, or erythritol, ideally, if it's not, ideally not from corn, right? A corn-based product, because it could be GMO then. If it's organic, you'd probably be fine. But that's a sugar alcohol. It doesn't have an effect on your blood sugar. Some people, like for me, I get a lot of gas when I consume it. So if you don't digest FODMAPs real well, right, particularly that group of FODMAPs, then you might have some gas and bloating. So for me, I limit my exposure to that. I don't consume a whole lot of it for that reason. Okay, so some people do great on xylitol. They don't do so good on stevia, so wherever you're at. Other ones that you'd want in moderation would be raw honey. Okay, so raw honey, ideally local. Grade B maple syrup. Grade B is going to be, in a sense, darker and more rich in B vitamins. Those B vitamins help with the blood sugar signaling patterns. So you could do some grade B maple syrup. Coconut sugar is a decent one. Lohan extract, which is also called monk fruit. That's a low glycemic sweetener. So those would be better sweeteners. Okay, again, stevia is my favorite. That's what I mostly use. Small amounts of raw honey, gravy maple syrup, things like that on occasion. So now, guys, we're going to go into meal planning and how to really bring this into a meal plan. Okay, Dylan, is that where I'm at?
No, you need to back up because you're talking about all those different foods that they respect.
So sweeteners?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you're pretty much at the end of sweeteners. It seems like. So.
Okay, gotcha. So I was done with sweeteners?
I think so. Yeah, you can start there and I can just find you a spot to find it.
At sweeteners?
No, you can start where you were.
Just want to make sure.
Start meal plan. You're good.
Okay, meal plan. Okay, guys.
Sugar, you're at the end of the line.
That's right. Okay, back to meal planning. Okay guys, so now we're gonna talk about meal planning, how to put this together. So I'm a big fan of doing liquid and raw foods during the day. The reason being is that those are easier on our digestive system. And most of us are doing more of our stressful activities during the day. So you gotta think about it like high mental output or high physical output. If we're doing physically strenuous activities or mentally strenuous activities, that's gonna take blood away from our digestive system. It's gonna compete with blood flow and energy. So I'm a fan, like for me, I work really hard during the day. So I wanna eat, in a sense, I wanna eat light during the day, and I wanna eat foods that are gonna digest very effectively and easily, so I have less stress on my digestive system. Because if I make a big bowl of oatmeal or like a big thing of eggs, and I'm trying to eat that, and then I go out and I'm trying to do a talk like this, I am not gonna get the blood flow I need and the digestive juices, the hydrochloric acid, the bile, the pancreatic enzymes, to break down the eggs effectively. Therefore, it's gonna cause more irritation in my gut lining. Because if we don't digest food well, it's gonna cause irritation and inflammation in our gut. And the difference between a healthy gut lining and an inflamed and leaky gut lining can make all the difference in the world in your quality of life. If your gut becomes damaged, gosh, it is a struggle every day. You're gonna have a lot more inflammation in your body, your brain's not gonna function as well. Whatever your tendencies are, those are gonna be exposed, right? Maybe you have skin, you have a tendency to have more inflammation in your skin, you can develop eczema, acne, things like that. These are all related to leaky gut. So really taking pristine care of our gut lining is one of the best things you could possibly do in order to maximize your health. So in the morning, what I recommend typically for most people is do a shake, right? You can do a protein shake where you do like berries, some good coconut milk, throw in some extra coconut fats, like take a tablespoon of coconut oil if you're using kind of a thinner coconut milk, like a carton variety coconut milk, or non-sweetened, unsweetened of course. And then put in some high quality protein powder. We talked about the good types of protein powders. Throw a little bit of cinnamon in there. Cinnamon helps with blood sugar stabilization. You could use other herbs. You could even put a little turmeric if you wanted to in there, right, Lori? So that works great. So you can kind of customize it. You could throw, if you want to throw avocado in there, that makes it more like a mousse, right, a pudding type of mousse. That works great. If you want to put in some raw chocolate, if you do well with raw cacao, I'm going to show you guys where that is. You can put that in there. Make more of like a chocolate shake. Like that's pretty much actually all I've had today. Is I made this gigantic chocolate mousse, which is one of my favorite things. I actually used 2 avocados in there. I made it around 12 o'clock today. In the morning, all I did was drink a ton of water. I super hydrated my system. I put water and I put a little bit of lemon essential oil in the water. It was great that way. So I drank probably literally like a half gallon to maybe 3/4 of a gallon of water between, actually got up at 5:30 this morning and 12 o'clock. Just super hydrated my system. Tons of energy. I got a workout in there. I was doing a lot of work. Then around 12 o'clock, I made my mousse, and I took 2 avocados. I took 2 big scoops of coconut oil in there. I took coconut milk, right? So I took unsweetened coconut milk. I took raw chocolate, put that in there. Some chocolate non-denatured whey protein. I put that in. A little bit of extra chocolate stevia. I'm gonna show you guys where that is. Blended that up, right? So good, tasted good, and it was liquid nutrition, really easy on my digestive system. So my body was able to easily digest and assimilate the nutrients in there. So typically you do something like that in the morning, or you could do, again, a berry shake. Tons of recipes on our website. Great way to start the day. Okay, lunch, you could do either a shake like that, again, or you could do salad with healthy meat, or like a guacamole with, let's say, flax crackers and veggies. Something along those lines. You want to get those good fats in there. Okay, so if you do a salad, lots of olive oil on there. You want to get some moderate amount of protein in each of your meals. You want to get a lot of antioxidants, right? So that works great. You know, we have a recipe on our website for turmeric coconut cups, right? We also have a lemon and cinnamon coconut cups. Amazing. My wife made a bunch of these turmeric coconut cups. It's like turmeric, if you had that, Lori, turmeric, coconut butter, stevia, and it's like I pop these things in my mouth. It's like eating candy. And you'll notice you'll just feel so good because it produces ketones, stabilizes your blood sugar. It's awesome, right? So you could do something like that. For dinner, you could do like healthy meat, just like we talked about, lots of veggies, melt some grass-fed butter on them, squeeze some lemon over everything, or do some apple cider vinegar. That will actually help with the digestive process, break down the protein, break down the veggies, helps enhance the digestive process. With all those things, and then you add herbs on, and that works great. Or you could do like a chicken soup, right? So you can do a chicken soup. ideally with low glycemic veggies, or if you want to have a little bit of carrot. Carrot's actually a great fiber that helps move your intestinal system, helps actually feed, has arbinogalactin prebiotics that help feed good bacteria in your system to reduce inflammation. Get a little bit of carrot in there. So you can do different types of soups if you want. Soup is fantastic for your body using organic broths. Amazing strategy. So typically I try to get more of my solid food or my food that's tougher on the digestive system in the evening, okay, after I'm finished with everything. Does that make sense? Usually a lower stress period of time. And meat is amazing for our body, but it can be tough on the digestive system. So supporting it by putting some apple cider vinegar on there, or lemon or something like that, can actually make all the difference in the world. Consuming it at a time where we're gonna relax, right? Like we're gonna just be sitting around talking with our spouse, or checking our emails, or watching a movie, or something along those lines. A lot easier for your body. Does that make sense? Right? So that's really optimal meal planning. If you deviate a little bit from it from time to time, you know, it's not the end of the world, but the more that you can kind of follow that strategy, the faster you're going to reduce inflammation, the faster you're going to get your body into that fat adapted state, improve your brain function, and just dramatically improve your energy. Make sense? Okay, great. So now we're going to go around the store. Okay, so one of the common questions that I get as we go through the store is people will ask me what's best to get, fresh, frozen, or canned when it comes to our vegetables. And what I typically recommend is that fresh is always best some of the time. And what I mean by some of the time is fresh is best when you're getting something at the peak of ripeness. So for example, berries are more of a summer-based fruit. So getting them fresh in the summer is a great idea. This time of year, it's actually better to get them frozen. The reason being is that when they freeze them at the peak of ripeness. So getting your berries frozen this time of year, great idea. Getting frozen vegetables, frozen broccoli, things like that, always, it's a good idea. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of great nutrients, gonna be very, very healthy and healing for your body. So it's really, really good strategy. So we wanna do fresh or frozen, okay? Now, when it comes to pesticides, right, what we know is that if you're gonna eat the outer skin, so for example, like a cucumber or an apple, you're typically gonna wanna get that in an organic variety, right? Therefore, less pesticide, herbicides. If you're not gonna eat the skin or the peel, like an avocado or a banana, for example, or garlic or onions, that would be something that you wouldn't necessarily need to get organic. Does that make sense? That's kind of the general rule to apply with this. When it comes to canned foods, we really wanna reduce our exposure to cans as much as possible. There's only a couple things that I'm okay with getting in a can. That would be things like coconut milk, olives, right? Just because the good fats in there, to me, outweigh the risk of the environmental toxins that could be in there. Maybe like wild-caught salmon, something along those lines, where these foods are just so nutrient dense and good for our body that it outweighs the potential toxins like BPA that we may be getting from the can. Does that make sense? And that's what we're gonna try to do. So for the most part, we wanna minimize our exposure to cans, right? But if we do get some things with small amounts, like coconut milk or olives or wild-caught fish or something like that, that would be acceptable. Make sense? All right, so guys, right over here, we've got fermented drinks. And behind me, we've got two different types. Coconut water keeper, where they've taken coconut water, which naturally has a lot of electrolytes and natural sugars. They ferment them, so good bacteria and yeast and different microorganisms get in there. They break down the sugar and they produce more B vitamins and organic acids. So actually it has a very mild response on your blood sugar because again, it's loaded with good acids and B vitamins that help your body metabolize blood sugar. They also have kombucha, which is kind of like a pancake style, almost like a mushroom that gets fermented, right? Again, with sugar in there. The bacteria and the microorganisms break down the sugar, produce B vitamins and organic acids. Mild effect on your blood sugar, lots of B vitamins, you have good microorganisms in there, lots of electrolytes. These are fantastic drinks. Now, if you've never had a fermented drink before, I'd recommend starting with small amounts, like a tablespoon at a time, okay? That's gonna be better so you don't have like an explosive effect on your digestive system, something we wanna avoid. Start with a tablespoon or two. Over time, you'll notice, hey, I really tolerate this well, I feel really good. You might wanna go with maybe like a quarter cup, then you might wanna go to half a cup. Then you get to the point where it's like you're drinking one, a whole bottle in a sitting, okay, and then you just get hooked on them. Okay, not a bad thing to get hooked on. Ideally, try to minimize it to like a half a bottle a day, because too many microorganisms can actually, for some individuals, not for everybody, some individuals do great with it, some individuals actually can cause more stress and inflammation. So half a bottle a day is a great overall amount when it comes to like coconut water, kefir, kombucha, things like that. So that's going to be a great approach. And the reason why I love these ones is because they're in a glass bottle too. The more that we can be drinking stuff out of a glass bottle, the less environmental exposure that we're having, and also it's good for the environment. And so just like Lori was just saying, she likes to reuse these bottles as water bottles, and that's a fantastic idea. So these are really good things to invest in. Something that my wife and I use on a regular basis. We love the coconut water kefir. I found that people with leaky gut or inflammation seem to tolerate the coconut water kefir a little bit better than the kombucha, so I'm a little bit more in favor of using that over the kombucha. However, if you've had a good response with the kombucha, then by all means continue with that. And in a sense, this is kind of like, this is really what our ancestors did for soda, right? So like you think about ginger ale, it was really like a ginger tea that was fermented, and it was great. Ginger is so good for our digestive system, so great for our body. It wasn't until different companies got a hold of it and they started processing it, loading it with sugar, really taking out a lot of the ginger, and that's when we have the typical modern day soda. So this is a great drink to be using. If your kids or people in your family love soda, try to transition them to these kind of fermented drinks, and I think you'll see that over time they'll start to really, really love and enjoy them, and they'll get great health in here. But right over here, we've got pasture-raised eggs, okay? And we were talking about that, and there's a difference. So you can see pasture-raised. Like as I take this right here, this is pasture-raised, girls fed on grass, right? We want that, a lot more antioxidants, a lot more powerful nutrients in these eggs, as opposed to just your typical organic. Organic means non-GMO, right? Which is a good thing, right? So definitely a good standard. Cage-free really means nothing, believe it or not, okay? So it's not like an advantage to get cage-free. Really you're looking for, if you can't find pasture-raised, get the organic, but ideally pasture-raised. Pasture-raised have about 6 times more nutrients than typical organic, because again, you're eating the grass, you're eating wild bugs, things like that, just really powerful nutrients that are going to support our body and help our body to heal. Tons of carotenoid antioxidants, a lot of CLA, we talked about that with the grass-fed butter, same thing in our eggs, okay, so that's really what we're going to want to consume, is a lot of these guys right here, okay?
And how does pasture-raised compare to free-range?
Well, free range, again, really doesn't mean much of anything, okay?
It's nothing like cage-free.
It's kind of like cage-free, whereas pasture-raised, not pasteurized, right? Again, pasture-raised means they're fed on grass, right? They were free, they were out able to kind of eat a natural diet, right? And that's what we want, okay? So that's our eggs. Right over here, you can see this is coconut milk kefir right here. And coconut milk kefir is kind of like a sour cream alternative. So if you don't tolerate dairy well, like if you were finding, I think they have a grass-fed sour cream you could use. If you don't tolerate dairy well though, this is great. So like on my website, we have a tenacious taco lettuce wrap recipe. And so if you're gonna do Mexican, right, convert it over, and let's say you want to stay away from dairy, this would be a great sour cream alternative, right? Make sense? Okay, let's go down this way now.
Sour cream. Yeah.
I was going to grab some right here real quick. Okay. So right over here, guys, we've got unsweetened coconut milk yogurt. You want to make sure you get the unsweetened type, because this doesn't have any added sugar in it. So unsweetened or unsweetened vanilla. There's also an unsweetened vanilla that you can get. It's very, very low in sugar. And it's got a lot of good, because it's fermented, it's got a lot of good bacteria that are really, really helpful for our body, and a lot of good fats. So if you're a yogurt lover, definitely can do this, okay? If you're able to tolerate dairy well, getting a grass-fed yogurt is gonna be advantageous to you. A lot of people ask me about Greek yogurt, okay? There's really no difference between Greek yogurt and typical standard yogurt. If the animal is eating grains, right, the cow's eating grains, it's gonna be inflammatory. If you're eating grass, it's gonna be anti-inflammatory. Does that make sense? Right? So that's what we want. This is coconut milk yogurt. Okay, so right
Talk
over
a little
here,
louder.
Yes, so right over here, we've got grass-fed butter and grass-fed ghee. So you can see, made from grass-fed cows right there, right? It's very obvious, they make it very obvious. This one's pasture-raised. So again, the ghee is clarified butter. It's great, anybody can use it. Most people like the taste a slight bit better of the grass-fed butter. But again, if you have autoimmune disease or just a really major dairy intolerance, use the ghee. Most people tolerate the ghee really, really well, okay? But either way, like if you don't, if you're able to tolerate dairy well, you can get either one, interchangeable. Do a lot with this, they're fantastic. You know, we were talking about the meal planning. If you melt, you get your vegetables, you cook your vegetables up, you melt a whole bunch of grass-fed butter on them, fantastic fat, and actually makes the vegetables taste a lot better. A lot of parents will ask me, they'll say, you know, I can't get my kids to eat vegetables. Well, if you make broccoli and you put a ton of grass-fed butter on it and some herbs, they'll eat it, they'll love it, okay? They'll taste great, they'll be satisfied, you won't have cravings after dinner. It's a fantastic approach. So again, grass-fed butter, ghee. Okay, so guys, right over here, we have got unsweetened coconut milk and unsweetened almond milk. I prefer the coconut milk over the almond milk because, again, a lot of times people will develop almond sensitivities. However, if you feel like you tolerate the almond milk well, continue to go with it, okay? So it is a good one. This is the unsweetened, right? So 0 grams of sugar in here. This one right here has got 0 grams of sugar, right? So no effect on blood sugar, good fats in both of them, so they're healthy. Now, if you make a shake and you put berries and you put whey protein or something like that, some sort of good protein, if you want it to last longer, because there's not a whole lot of fat in here, add in like an avocado, add in coconut oil, and that way it'll help stabilize your blood sugar so you'll be able to go longer time between meals. If you just use this, berries and protein, it's gonna go through you in a couple hours, right? You're gonna need some food. Make sense? That could be a good strategy right after a workout if you want something quick to get into your system quick. However, in general, as a meal replacement, not a good strategy. Make sense? Okay, so guys, right over here we've got organic coffee and teas. And this is a great way to get antioxidants into our system. In fact, coffee is actually the #1 source of antioxidants in the American diet, right? Typical American, they're getting most of their antioxidants from coffee. Now, your typical traditional coffees are highly processed. You're not getting a whole lot of bang for your buck. You want to get organic dark roast coffee, okay? And that could be great. If you tolerate coffee well, I'm all for it. In fact, you can make your breakfast with organic coffee, right? Like a dark roast coffee. You could put in a scoop of grass-fed butter and a scoop of coconut oil in there, and you make it. In fact, on our website, we've got a recipe for a creamy cinnamon coffee. The cinnamon actually helps with blood sugar sensitivity, helps reduce stress hormone, really, really good for your system. If you have adrenal fatigue or you just notice you feel irritable and jittery when you have coffee, then come off of it. Use like a good quality tea. And really all of us would benefit from doing good high quality teas, whether it's green tea or ginger tea. Ginger tea is great for the digestive system. Peppermint tea. You can do things like smooth move tea, especially if you're having problems moving your bowels. They have all different types. I like traditional medicinals or yogi teas, which are the brands right behind me here. These are organic teas, so organic herbs. Great approach to keeping your immune system strong, to helping your hormones. Like they've got one called Nighty Night Tea, and that's great for helping relax your body, helping stimulate neurotransmitters that help you sleep. And it has things like passion flower and chamomile, which also act as estrogen detoxifiers. Most people in society have high estrogen dominance. Herbs like chamomile and passion flower actually help detoxify bad estrogens. So if we all drank like a nighty-night tea in the evening, it would help us relax, sleep deeper, clear out bad estrogens, help cleanse, detoxify our body. Great strategy to get more antioxidants in our system. Hey guys, so unfortunately, Whole Foods, they weren't okay with us filming in there. We didn't know that to begin with. So we're gonna finish the shopping tour, but we're gonna do it here at my house, and I'm gonna go over things that I didn't get a chance to go over earlier on this shopping tour. And so as we're looking at the produce, and we didn't get to that while we were going through the store, so we're looking at produce here, and one of the common questions I get is, what do we need to get, like what's the most important produce to get organic? What can we get away with not getting organic? And the general rule is this, is that if we're going to eat the outer skin, it's best to get it organic. So you look at something like an avocado, we're not going to eat the rind, right? Like we're not going to eat that. We're going to peel it and eat the inside. Not as important to get that organic. Something like an onion. I'm not going to eat this piece right here. We're going to peel that, and then we're going to get on the inside, and that's what we're going to consume. So those kinds of things, it's okay to get not organic. As opposed to something like this shard right here, this rainbow shard, I'm going to eat this whole leaf right here. So because of that, I want to make sure I get that organic as much as possible. Bell peppers, really good idea to get those organic. If you can't, because I've been in the store a lot of times where they don't have any organic bell peppers, and I really want a bell pepper. So what I'll do is I'll spray it, I'll put a little vinegar, right? Or I'll get a veggie spray it down, wash it in water to get as much of the pesticides off as possible. Still not as good as getting it organic, but certainly better than if I had just eaten it straight up with pesticides, herbicides on top of it. So that's always a really good idea, a really good thing to remember. So you take something like a grapefruit. I don't need to get this organic. This isn't as important to get organic because I'm going to peel the outer layer. Right here, a lemon, unless I'm juicing the lemon, okay, I don't need to get that organic as well. So that's the general rule. That's how we want to apply it. So as we're looking through our vegetables, we want to make sure we're getting a lot of non-starchy veggies because they're so rich in nutrients. No carbs, right? Are very, very low in carbohydrates and sugar. So our blood sugar stays really stable, but we get a ton of phytonutrients into our body. Also, low glycemic fruit like lemons and limes, berries right here. So we got raspberries, really good, really rich in nutrients, really good for the body. Grapefruit, Granny Smith, or green apples can also be very, very good. Produce, onions, garlic. We've got ginger root right here. I like to put this in our green juices. Really good for the body, very powerful anti-inflammatories. With an onion, they say an onion a day keeps your hair from going gray. So if you want to prevent age-related gray and whiting of your hair, then eat more onions, right? And if that's the case, right, and that's just an old wives' tale, but if that is the case, it would absolutely be because of two things. The chromium that's in the onions is very good for blood sugar stability, right? And that's key for keeping inflammation down. Very important. Also, onions are very rich in sulfur compounds that help our body with phase 2 liver detoxification. So that process could absolutely help prevent accelerated aging, right? And it can actually prevent your hair from going gray. So don't hold me to it, but I don't think it's a bad strategy at all. I think it's actually a very good health strategy to try to get an onion a day. And red onions are the most nutrient dense because the red, what gives them the red color is something called anthocyanins, which actually protect the plant from harsh UV radiation. So it protects against UV radiation, and that's actually the same pigment, phytonutrient pigment, that's in blueberries. It's actually in raspberries. It's in purple cabbage. It's in the reds and the purple types of fruits and vegetables. We have that anthocyanins right in there. This is kale sprouts, and my wife and I, we always get broccoli or kale sprouts, whatever's available, because these are so rich in phytonutrients. They are the number one source of something called sulforaphane, which is a very powerful anti-carcinogen. Actually helps protect your P53 gene, which is, in a sense, your security guard of your genome. So very powerful. Sprouts also help your body with phase 2 liver detoxification. Very important. And on top of that, they're very simple, very easy. No carbs in them. Just throw them on a salad, on meat. Try to consume those on a regular basis. Very good for getting more nutrients in your body, helping your body to cleanse and detoxify. Right over here, we've got apple cider vinegar. This is the brand that I recommend. It's Bragg's apple cider vinegar. And just a quick story, Paul Bragg, the developer of this, the way he died, apparently he was 97 years old, and he was a health crusader throughout his life, going around in the early 20th century and just touring all over the place and teaching people how to get healthy, how to change their nutrition, live a healthy lifestyle, and get well. In fact, Jack LaLanne, who developed the first fitness center, Jack LaLanne credits his life being saved from Paul Bragg, the developer of this apple cider vinegar. And the way that Paul Bragg died, he was 97 years old at the time, and he was in Hawaii, and he was surfing on a regular basis. And one day he paddled out, and he didn't come back, and apparently drowned out there, which sucks, obviously, but to be 97 and to be able to surf on a regular basis, I think every one of us would take that quality of life. And one of the things he recommended was using apple cider vinegar, put it in water, put it on meats and foods and vegetables, things like that. Very, very powerful health benefits to it. Loaded with enzymes that help break down your meat, your vegetables, organic acids, so it helps pre-metabolize food, helps sterilize your gut, so it reduces bad bacteria like H. pylori, which is associated with acid reflux and stomach ulcers, helps reduce small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, these kinds of chronic inflammatory issues with our gut. Apple cider vinegar, really good for those. Right here we've got some fermented vegetables. This is Brussels kraut. So they've taken Brussels sprouts, fermented them, and created Brussels kraut. Really powerful, nutrient-dense food. This one right here is raw organic kraut, so red cabbage that's been fermented. Again, the anthocyanins, the same thing that we have in the red onions in there. And there's also tons and tons of what we call phenylisothiocyanates, which are a very powerful class of anti-carcinogenic agents right in there, that sauerkraut. There's also enzymes, probiotics, really good stuff for our body. Coconut butter, something that I use on a regular basis. Lots of the recipes on drjockers.com call for this. It's basically like coconut oil with some with the coconut flour still in there. So it's got all the fat, but it's also got the fiber from the coconut flour. Hasn't been taken out yet. And there you go, you got the coconut. So it's thicker than coconut oil. Really good stuff. That's our coconut butter. Right over here, we've got some almond butter. So almond butter can be really good. We got it in a lot of our recipes on drjockers.com. So you get your almond butter as well. You know, tons of really good stuff. And right over here, we've got raw chocolate. So this is raw chocolate with maca. Raw cacao, extremely good for the body, okay? Actually helps improve energy, boosts up blood flow to our brain, very powerful. The maca is an adaptogenic herb, which helps our body adapt to stress, helps boost testosterone and anti-aging hormones. Real good for the body. Right here is another good snack. This is Kale Crunch. So this is basically kale chips, where they've got, in a sense, they're made with organic cashews, sesame seeds, lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, chia seeds. A lot of really good stuff in there. So kale, that's kale chips. And then this is the stevia that we use right here. So this is our chocolate right here, and this is our vanilla cream sweet leaf stevia. Is the kind of stevia that I recommend using on a regular basis. So, you know, here we are. We're doing our best to kind of finish up our shopping tour. Whole Foods, again, wouldn't let us finish it up all together. But I did show you guys many of the things that my wife and I, that we consume on a regular basis. These are the things that I recommend for my clients. These are the best superfoods to really be putting on your body on a regular basis. So, you know, watch the shopping tour as many times as possible so you get the information. You can go out to the grocery store, start applying these steps and principles. You know, if you go to drjockers.com, we also have shopping plans. So there's actually shopping guides that will really help you along the way with getting the stuff that you need, the kinds of real foods that are going to support your body, support the healing process, support your body's ability to produce abundant energy, so you can live life at your full potential. So we'll see you next time. This was our Whole Foods shopping tour. Hope you enjoyed it.